Hi, it's me. Welcome to another new Limbus Company ID overview. This week's update brought us Drifting Blade of Hongyuan Ryōshū, an incredibly powerful triple-odd ID that fits into the Poise and Rupture archetypes. This is another seasonal ID, and this season is coming to a close at the end of this month, and I definitely think she is worth getting, so be ready to shard her after this week ends. Let me explain to you why I think she's so valuable, even as a general use unit. Due to how this ID works, I'm going to be jumping in with the passives as they become relevant. The first thing though, is that this ID has a new status called Protector's Stance, which stacks up to 2. It reduces damage taken by 10% per stack, gives shield based on the current poise potency at turn start, capping at 20, and then grants 3 poise and 1 poise count, 5 aggro to her leftmost slot as well. It reduces at turn end, and since it only gained up to 2 at most, it will be awfully hard to maintain consistently outside of the mirror dungeon. While it does have defensive value, this is the first Ryōshū ID to ever have a positive defense level, its main purpose is going to be increasing the consistency with regard to her poise gain. She will begin combat with 2 Protector's Stance if she enters the encounter after being a backup unit, as well as if she returns after retreating. You can use this to your advantage to have her start combat with the effect, but I find it better to just have her on the field since she will be more valuable that way. We'll talk about her main passives as they become relevant. Her support passive is worth mentioning because it is just completely useless. 10 shield HP is never enough to make a difference, and so she provides pretty much no meaningful benefit while she's on the bench, even in a poise team which can take the most advantage of it. If she's going to be on the bench, you're going to be bringing her onto the field as quickly as you possibly can. Your easiest way to gain Protector's Stance is by using her defense skill, Sentinel. It's a 3-13 rolling Pride clashable guard with a single unbreakable coin that gains up to 6 defense level, or effectively 2 clash power, based on how much cumulative HP she has lost. It grants 2 Protector's Stance at combat start, and gives up to 5 poise on winning a clash. It being a Pride skill is very helpful for poise teams that want to trigger Pride Absolute Resonance often, and since Ryōshū is the main vehicle for those effects thanks to her ego, you'll want to keep it as an option in your back pocket. The most important part of her kit by far, however, is her skill 1. Hey, Back Off is a 6-13 rolling Pierce Gloom skill with 1 coin that can become up to a 6-15 based on her own poise and the target's rupture. It gains 1 poise count, inflicts a decent amount of rupture potency for a skill 1, and also inflicts 1 rupture count if it's unopposed. It's a very unassuming skill until you look at her passives. Once per turn, after any other ally unit uses an attack skill against an enemy, Ryōshū will use this skill as an unopposed attack against the same enemy. This attack will always be rupture count neutral thanks to the unopposed effect on the skill, generates an additional gloom resource every turn, and hits decently hard if it crits. This ID is the single best unit for generating Gloom resources as a result, and Gloom is a useful resource in every team. Once her passive is fueled, it also deals an additional 30% damage on critical hit, as well as healing 2-4 SP for one ally who has the lowest SP, but that does not affect allies with negative 40 or less SP. It will contribute to her being a very high damage unit as well as a valuable SP support while she's active in combat, especially since the passive itself is very easy to fuel in the fight. Engraved in Flesh and Bone is a 4-16 rolling Pierce Gluttony skill with 3 coins that can become up to a 4-22 based on her own poise and the target's rupture. It gains a decent amount of poise count and inflicts a decent amount of both rupture count and rupture potency. Her poise potency gain being tied to the target's rupture is a bit annoying, though you could at least always gain 2 poise potency on the second hit. The skill itself is rather good, but simultaneously the least important piece of her entire kit, even though it is technically her best skill for gaining poise potency. Aiding Strike is a 4-16 rolling Pierce Pride skill with 4 coins that can become up to a 5-25 based on her own poise potency, the target's rupture potency, as well as if they have 3 or more negative effects on them. It gains a good amount of poise count and potency, as well as inflicting a lot of rupture potency. The final hit can deal a ridiculous amount of damage if it lands a crit, which is why it's important to keep her poise potency high. It also grants 2 Protector's Stance on use, meaning you pretty much always want to use it if you can. There is, of course, more to this skill. Her passive allows her to trigger it as a revenge attack once per encounter after an enemy leaves an ally with 25% or less HP or defeats an ally. While this is once per encounter, if the said ally is Lord of Hongyuan, it can trigger an additional time. The passive is similar to that of Kurokumo Heathcliff, though with a lot more of a limited reach. Speaking of Lord of Hongyuan, this ID is also secretly a Heishou, not actually though. While Lord of Hongyuan Honglu does not gain Leash Holder of all Heishou and can't force Ryōshū to retreat or combo with her, she does activate her skill 3 instead of her skill 1 upon entering battle while he is present. As a result, it only really makes sense to use her on the bench in a Rupture team. When it comes to ego, she doesn't perfectly feel any of her own, but there are a handful to keep in mind. Firstly, while Blind Obsession is not the most powerful ego in the game, it does grant a decent amount of poise potency when used, which is something this ID really wants. It also allows her to maintain her poise count through an entire use of her skill 3 if she's already at high poise, which is not worthless. More importantly though, Thoracalgia is going to be the absolute best way to maintain her poise. While you do need to trigger Pride Absolute Resonance to activate Nebulizer, Ryōshū is the only unit who will always gain poise from the effect, and thus benefits from it a lot more than the rest of your team. One other ego that is quite good is actually Gregor's AEDD. Since the free skill she gets every turn is a Gloom skill, it becomes Rupture count positive when used unopposed against a target who has Spark Discharge. While the majority of her skills are count negative, they aren't so negative that the potency she inflicts and her free skill won't make up for it to a degree where using her in a Rupture setup will be a mistake. While her Rupture infliction is solid, I believe she performs best in a poise setup focused around pierce damage, even despite her synergy with the Lord of Hongyuan. As a result, her favorite allies are the Full Stop Office duo of IDs, who are both fast and also inflict quite an amount of pierce fragility, of which her damage benefits quite a lot from it. Pequod Ishmael is also very funny to run alongside her, because having 3 assist attack style skills every turn is incredibly fun to play around with, while also being great for both generating a lot of resources and dealing a lot of additional damage. Sunk Sinclair, Sunk Otis, and Sunk East Don Quixote are all great units for dealing pierce damage, inflicting a variety of status effects that will increase the amount of damage all allies will deal. They are also very fast, so you're likely to get a lot of additional damage out of having them around. Blade Lineage Faust is not a perfect match for this ID, but having access to the other Thoracalgia is always going to be valuable in any poise team, so keep her in mind. Twin Hook Pirate Gregor is also great as a unit who deals massive amounts of pierce damage, with his skill 3 being one of the highest damage skills in this team setup that isn't from the full stops. Sunk Merceau is the only unit that pairs exceptionally well with this new ID, who can be used alongside her in both poise and rupture setups. He's good for rupture infliction, deals a lot of damage, and fulfills a unique niche for the team itself by being able to not consume enemy rupture count. If your goal is to bring her in rupture, C. Gregor is probably the best ID to bring along with in order to support AEDD. While he is one of the weaker Heishou units altogether, there really isn't a better option on Gregor for a Rupture team at this point. Heishou Rodian, Family Hierarch Ishmael, and Heishou Yi Sang are all great pairings for this ID, with Rodian and Ishmael making Deathrite Venom a viable method of inflicting debuffs, and Yi Sang being an important unit for making Ishmael more powerful, though he isn't necessarily required. Lord of Hongyuan Honglu, Heishou Faust, and Heishou Otis are all also very important for the team, as they are the other best inflictors of Rupture currently in the game. If you do bring Ryōshū as a backup unit, she will be the one you want to bring into battle first, so the other Heishou that are designed to enter battle later will probably not be good pairs with her. You don't really want Otis to retreat ever, so you can't reliably cause her an early retreat if she's on the field either. Both Devyats and W Corp Yi Sang are also great units for Rupture teams featuring this new ID. Devyat Rodian is arguably better than Heishou even now, and carries the same niche as Sunk Merceau while offering better sin affinities. Sinclair is not amazing for consistent Rupture count infliction despite his high numbers, though he has a variety of ego that are useful in Rupture teams, and W Corp Yi Sang is still one of the best units for inflicting Rupture count when paired with his Dimension Shredder ego. And that's about all I have to say about her. This ID is deceptively powerful for how simple her kit actually is. It really goes to show how one innocuous passive can make a unit so much more powerful than it has any right to be. And she's also actually fun to use despite her simplicity. If you want to try her out, I have her in my company at max level so you can see how she plays before you pull for or shard her. Make sure to do the YouTube things and also tell me what you think of her in the comments. Thank you for watching my video, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you again soon.